April 8th, 2013. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the city clerk please take roll?
Joyce J.
Here.
Mike Stites.
Here.
Davis Reinhardt.
Here.
Bud Starker.
Present.
Joseph DeMott.
Here.
George Pond.
Present.
Christy Davis.
Here.
Tracy Langworthy.
Here.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes of March 25th, 2013?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion to approve was seconded by Mr. Starker and Mr. Reinhardt. Discussion on the minutes. Please poll the council.
Motion carries 8-0.
Thank you. We have 3 proclamations tonight. Our first proclamation is going to be National Volunteer and Appreciation Week. I'm going to ask the chief to please step forward. And Chief, do we have any other guests tonight for this? I don't think so. Okay. I really hate to use these, but so we have a proclamation for National Volunteer Appreciation Week, April 21st through 27th, 2013. As whereas the National Volunteer Appreciation Week is celebrated from April 21st through April 29th in 2013, and whereas the City of Wheat Ridge Police Department recognizes the value of each volunteer brings to the police department, and whereas volunteers help to improve the quality of life for the citizens of Wheat Ridge and increase community participation and awareness, and whereas the City of Wheat Ridge Police Department volunteers contributed more than 2,200 hours of service in 2012 with the cost savings of more than $45,000, now therefore be resolved by the Mayor and City Council of the Wheat Ridge do hereby proclaim the week of April 21st through April 27th, 2013 as the City of Wheat Ridge Volunteer Appreciation Week, and renew our commitment to the volunteers of the City of Wheat Ridge. Chief? Thank you.
Council, Mayor, just a quick opportunity again to plug our volunteer program. We've got a variety of volunteers that work for the police department in a lot of capacities. We have a retired DA's investigator right now that's helping us with reviewing all of our cold case homicides. We've got volunteers that help us at our front desk. We have volunteers that help us with our community services unit and other functions throughout the police department. We frankly probably couldn't do some of the things we're doing today without their work, and we're continually looking at ways to engage law-abiding community members that want to spend time and volunteer their services with the police department. So if you're interested in that, please send me an email or give me a phone call. We'd be glad to add additional volunteers to our ranks. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief. And the next proclamation is the Mayor's Day of Recognition for National Service. I'd like to ask Caitlin to come forward. Is Caitlin here? Hi, Caitlin. So this proclamation is April 9th, 2013 for tomorrow, whereas AmeriCorps OSM Vista service members have and will continue to help build healthy futures for Wheat Ridge residents by encouraging access to local and nutritious foods, and whereas AmeriCorps NCC service members will improve the Wheat Ridge community garden and 5 fridges farm with physical repairs this spring and summer, and whereas service to others is the hallmark of the American character and central to how we meet our challenges, and whereas the Corporation for National and Community Service shares a priority with mayors nationwide to engage citizens, improve lives, and strengthen communities, and is joining with mayors across the country to support the Mayor's Day of Recognition for National Service on April 9th, 2013. Therefore, be resolved that I, Jared DiTullio, Mayor of Wheat Ridge, do hereby proclaim April 9th, 2013 as our National Service Recognition Day and encourage residents to recognize the positive impact of national service in our city, to thank those who do serve, and find ways to give back to our community. In witness thereof, Janelle Schaefer, City Clerk. Thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you for recognizing me and the AmeriCorps program, which for those of you who don't know is kind of like the Domestic Peace Corps. And I'm in the AmeriCorps Vista program, which aims to alleviate poverty. And then we get a stipend as a volunteer to cover food and housing. And I've really enjoyed working with the Wheat Ridge community and groups like Live Well Wheat Ridge and Wheat Ridge 2020 to help with their first food and film series. And I did just want to make people aware that the Jefferson Conservation District that I work for is partnering with the city of Wheat Ridge and an urban farm this spring. For about 2 weeks, we're going to get an AmeriCorps and CCC crew to make improvements to the Happiness Community Gardens in Wheat Ridge and the urban farm, Five Fridges Farm, which is also in Wheat Ridge. So thank you.
Thank you. And our last proclamation is Arbor Day in Tree City, USA. So I'd like to ask Devin to come forward, Rick Murray and Margaret. Margaret and Rick work for our Parks Department, and I'll read a short proclamation. I'll turn it over to Devin. So proclamation, Arbor Day in Tree City, USA, April 27, 2013. Whereas trees have always been regarded as an important asset to the citizens of the community of Wheat Ridge, providing one of the first business opportunities in the 1860s, and whereas trees continue to be respected as an important part of the quality of life to the citizens of Wheat Ridge and visitors, enhancing property values and community spirit, and whereas citizens, businesses, green industry, elected officials, and staff continue to work together to maintain and provide for tree-covered streets, parks, and properties as part of a comprehensive community forest program, and whereas the city of Wheat Ridge has been awarded the Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation, now therefore I, Jerry DiTullio, Mayor of the City of Wheat Ridge, do hereby declare Saturday, April 27th as the City of Wheat Ridge Arbor Day celebration, and encourage all citizens and businesses of Wheat Ridge to participate in this effort by planting a tree or a shrub. Congratulations.
Fabulous. Congratulations. Thank you.
Say a few words.
I would like to say a few words, but really this is all about you, not me. Thank you very much for giving me time on your agenda, Mr. Mayor and City Council. I'm Devin Buckles. I am the Urban Waters Partnership Coordinator. I'm working for the EPA and the Colorado State Forest Service, leading a group of 50 different entities, public, private, and nonprofit agencies, all working together to restore and protect the South Platte River and watershed. So as many of you are familiar with the Revive the Greenbelt project here in Wheat Ridge, and that project was funded in part through our Urban Waters funding. So we are planning to join the Revive the Greenbelt project on April 27th as they go about planting trees, and we hope you will join us. There's a flyer on the back table with information about how to do exactly that in celebration of Arbor Day. But the real reason I'm here is I'm here on behalf of the Colorado State Forest Service to give the City of Wheat Ridge its 34th Tree City USA Award. So this is very significant. This award does not just happen automatically every year. The community has to apply for it and demonstrate that you've met 4 standards. The Arbor Day Foundation reviews the applications and determines whether you qualify as a Tree City USA. Those criteria include having a tree board or professional tree manager on board, and we do have that here in Wheat Ridge. Margaret Paget is here this evening to accept this award on behalf of the city. You need to have a tree ordinance in place to preserve and protect your community trees, and you need to have a community forestry program that has an annual budget of at least $2 per capita, which you are spending here in the city of Wheat Ridge. And you need to have an Arbor Day observance and proclamation. And this year, thank you so much for taking the occasion to celebrate with the Revive the Greenbelt project. You know, our community trees are the hardest working trees they are. They clean our air and water, conserve energy, help control stormwater runoff, and increase property values. And not only do they make our neighborhood more livable, but they also provide direct economic benefits to the city. And I just received some numbers this afternoon that you will probably be very interested in. The Forest Service did a study of the actual economic value provided by the tree canopy in the metro area, and they did it jurisdiction by jurisdiction. So I have numbers that pertain exclusively to the city of Wheat Ridge. So your tree canopy is saving you $12.5 million annually. So that's the one takeaway. Just take away that one number. If you remember one, that's the one. Of that 12.5, 10.2 million is for increased property values and other intangible benefits that are gained because of the city's tree canopy. The second largest benefit is 1.9 million, and that is due to reduced stormwater runoff management costs. So otherwise you'd have to treat all of these gallons of water, of stormwater. And the air temperature reductions, in other words, savings from cooling costs due to the tree canopy, are $447,000 that you save by not having to cool air in your homes and in your offices. So these numbers, you know, these trees are providing direct economic and financial benefits to the community. And in addition, they're just making the city of Wheat Ridge a much nicer place to live. So we congratulate you on your investments in your community tree program and congratulate you on receiving this 34th Tree City USA Award. So I'm going to pass this along. It's small, but it's very meaningful. This goes along in addition to the 33 you already have lined up on your plaque here in the city offices. So I'm going to just pass this along for display.
That goes on that?
It goes
Okay,
on,
great.
and yeah, something like this.
Great.
So
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Good evening. Thank you.
I missed the introduction email. Do I have anything to introduce?
What's that?
Did I have anything to introduce? I didn't see that email.
Thanks. So the next item on the agenda is citizens' right to speak. Citizens' right to speak is reserved for members of the public who wish to speak on any item that's not on the agenda tonight. Speakers are allowed 3 minutes. Others may donate their time to the speaker at the podium for a total of 9 minutes. So please step forward to the podium if you wish. Please form a line if you're here for public comment. Please spell your last name for the record. Well, you want to have facing council, or you want to have it facing? Okay. Okay. Do you have? Did you have someone here for longer than 3 minutes, or you still have 3 minutes?
I'm going to take my 3, and then Jerry's going to take 3.
Okay.
Thank you.
So please spell your last name for the record.
Okay. My last name, first name is Ted, and last name is Hyde, H-E-Y-D. And Mr. Mayor, members of council, I wanted to thank you for your time tonight. You may recall that back in December, I was here briefly to give you some quick information on what was the 38th Avenue retrofit endorsement letter. And this was and is an educational and promotional piece that Live Well Wheat Ridge was leading. And we were circulating this amongst members of the Wheat Ridge community, both individuals, businesses, agencies, and organizations. And so here tonight at the end of that process to present this to you, and just to give you a quick update on where we landed. We circulated this broadly, and as you can see on the board, we had 32 businesses, agencies, and organizations, not just from Wheat Ridge, but from the metro area, sign on to the 38th Avenue endorsement letter. I gave each of you a copy of the actual letter that was circulated prior to the meeting, so you have it there in front of you. And as you can see, we really focused on 3 things and what we think are 3 key benefits that this community is realizing because of what's happening out there on the corridor. And the first is economic. Businesses are investing out there. New businesses are coming online, and existing property owners and businesses are making improvements. The second is health. As very much laid out clearly in the corridor plan, it is a primary part of the vision to make it a more multimodal corridor, one that is more bike-friendly, one that is more pedestrian-friendly, and that's happening. And the last one is social vitality. If you think about the events and the activities and the social gatherings that are happening out on 38th Avenue, it really is becoming an exciting community gathering place. That downtown Main Street that a lot of people said didn't exist in Wheat Ridge. So that's very exciting. So we bring this to you really to show what was a broad statement of community support for what you as the city's leaders have invested in thus far. And Live Well Wheat Ridge obviously encourages you to continue to invest in the corridor. We had all kinds of interesting and telling conversations with people and going through this process. Most of the feedback was very positive. Not all of it was. But almost all of the feedback was very positive about the investment decisions that you have made out on the corridor. I did have a chance to talk with the mayor, and we agree with him. He said, as you chart the course for future investments on the corridor, do so in a fiscally prudent fashion. That is, get the most bang for your buck when you're making investment decisions for the corridor. And we agree with you. We agree with you. So Live Well Wheat Ridge would just like to thank you as the decision makers for the city and your efforts to continue to try to create a downtown Main Street in Wheat Ridge. And I'm going to turn it over to Jerry Nealon. Since the beginning of 2012, he's been leading up the 38th Avenue Leadership Committee, and he's going to add his own perspective. So thanks very much.
My name is Jerry Nealon, N-E-A-L-O-N, and I've got a business on 38th Avenue, and I just want to kind of repeat what Ted said. I think things on 38th Avenue are awesome. I remember one of the last things my dad said before he retired probably 15 years ago. He says, if 38th Avenue ever starts looking bad, sell the building, get out of town, move south. And in 08, we were kind of at crossroads, I think, on 38th Avenue. Things weren't looking so hot, and I'll tell you what, things have really turned around. Just driving down the street the other day, how pleasant it was to see bicycles, pedestrians, people out on the patios. It's a pleasant street to drive through. It might take me an extra minute to make a left-hand turn, but I'll tell you what, it's a give-and-take world, and I'll give that any day of the week in order to have that nice corridor. On the leadership committee, we've got 7 events planned for this year along the corridor, starting with on April 20th, the cleanup day. So if anybody's not doing anything on the 20th, head on down. We're going to be all getting together and cleaning up 38th Avenue a little bit. Then there'll be retro games in 38th Avenue on the 17th. Festival in mid-July. We're going to see if we can tie into the Wheat Ridge Carnation Festival a little bit, see if we can do an event on the street then, since the street's already going to be closed. Cyclocross, trunk or treat, holiday celebration. So there's really a lot going on. The other thing is we hired Jim Sue to create a website for Ridge at 38th, and they were very excited about our logo, the colors, the boldness, the brightness, and we're going to get business together to work with each other and link. Work together social network, Google Plus, Twitter, things like that, and kind of re-educate the businesses along 38th Avenue. So if business is a little bit slow, we don't want to leave anybody behind. We want them on board and kind of change their thinking a little bit, and let's move forward. So anyway, my big point tonight is thank you very, very much. We really appreciate it on 38th Avenue. We'll do the best we can to help you out. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nealon, would you mind moving Mr. Nealon or Mr. Hyde, would you mind moving this back to the side? We can't leave it there for the entire meeting. If you can face it towards the audience, that'd be great. Do we have anybody else here for public comment? Moving on, we'll move on to public hearings and ordinances on second reading.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Dahl?
approval of agenda. I'd ask that we're at the approval of agenda. I'd ask that council add an executive session legal advice concerning the city's rights under its gas and electric franchise.
By unanimous consent, does anybody have a problem with adding a executive session at the end of the agenda? So let the record show that we're adding an executive session at the end of the city council meeting and adjourn from the meeting?
Yes.
Thank you.
That's right.
Okay, now we'll move on to any other changes to the agenda tonight? Move on to public hearings and ordinances on second reading. Item 1 is Resolution 13-2013. Open the public hearing. Mr. Stites.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's my pleasure to introduce Resolution Number 13-2013, a resolution approving a 53-lot subdivision plat with right-of-way dedications for property zone planned residential development located at 11885 West 38th. Case number WS1201 Dowd Overlook. The applicant is requesting approval of a 53-lot subdivision plat with right-of-way dedications for the property zone planned residential development located at 11885 West 38th Avenue. The purpose of the subdivision is to prepare the property for development of a new residential subdivision.
Before we move on, I'll need to swear anybody in who's here to speak on this item. So if you're here to speak on item number 1, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth in this matter? Thank you. Move on to staff presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. For the record, Meredith Reckert, Wheat Ridge Community Development Department, and I am presenting case number WS12-01, which is a request for a 53-lot subdivision plat on property zoned planned residential development at 11885 West 38th Avenue. I'd like to enter into the record the zoning ordinance, case file, and packet materials, and the contents of this digital presentation.
Thank you.
The property is within the city of Wheat Ridge, and all proper posting and notification requirements have been met. Therefore, council does have jurisdiction to hear this case. Before I get into the nuts and bolts of the case, I'd like to do a little subdivision 101. We don't see these very often, especially of this size, and I think it's just a good reminder of what that process is. So really, the subdivision is a reconfiguration of a lot, tract, or parcel of land into 2 or more lots. For sale or building development. We have different types of plat documents. We have final plats that need to divide property into 2 or more parcels. We have lot line adjustments that shift a common property from one side to the other. We also have consolidation plats, which is where you've got 2 pieces of property and you combine them into one. And depending upon the type of subdivision we're talking about, the reviewing and approving authority can differ. We have administrative reviews, we have planning commission that can do reviews, and then of course city council does reviews as well. Let's talk about what a subdivision doesn't do. It doesn't change the zoning on a property. It doesn't change permitted land uses. It typically does not address development designs such as building placement or architecture, and it does not address impacts such as lighting or noise. But what it does do, it can define existing property lines, it can create and remove parcel lines, it allows the city to evaluate existing street right-of-ways and whether new streets are needed to serve the development. It also allows the city to review technical documents such as storm drainage reports, traffic reports, and allows us to be able to define easements for development to accommodate those improvements. It also allows the city to evaluate for parks and recreation purposes for residential only, not for commercial. So with that, I'll go ahead and get into the case. This is the property, which is outlined in blue. It's about 15 acres in size and has an existing single-family house on it with outbuildings and grazing land. The house was built in 1946 and will be demolished as part of the site development. 38th Avenue runs down the southern property line, or excuse me, abuts the southern property line, and the Clear Creek Greenbelt is located to the north of the property. As a matter of fact, you can see in the aerial a couple of the lakes and the creek itself. I would note that the property ownership, where that northern blue line is, stops just to the north of the existing home on the top of the bluff, as the property was conveyed to Coors beyond that in the 1960s, and in 2000 became part of the Clear Creek Greenbelt that we know and love today. This is the same aerial photo taken in 2012 with a zoning overlay on it. The darkish green is the parcel we're looking at tonight. Again, 38th Avenue runs along the south side. The different colors on the map represent the different zoning classifications on the adjacent parcels. And really, the property is surrounded on three sides, the west, the east, and the south, by single-family development. The zonings are a little bit different in each of those cases. To the east, the property is zoned R1A. To the south, it is also R1A, and to the west, it is R1 and A2. Again, to the north of the property is the Clear Creek Greenbelt and open space area. And I would note that the southern portion of the Greenbelt adjacent to the site is designated as a conservation area in the city's open space and management plan. North of the creek is a hard surface trail, and on the south side is a soft surface trail. Both of them are very heavily used. And I would note that the Risden Ditch is located in the open space just northeast of the subject property down below. As you can see in the prior aerial, there are several reservoirs that are located with the Clear Creek Open Space Corridor. Most of those were gravel pits and are now used for water storage by Coors. Bass Lake, which is the closest, is part of the conservation area and features a recently completed watchable wildlife boardwalk on the southern side of the lake. An endangered species, the Ute Ladies Tresses orchid, which I'll talk a little bit more about later, has been identified growing in this area and cannot be negatively impacted by any development on the site. The property was zoned from A2 and R1 to PRD with an outline development plan in 2007, excuse me. The ODP document, which contains 5 sheets, set the allowable uses and development standards for the property. It also contained a conceptual layout, typical architectural elevations in a landscape plan. So this is the first page of that 2007 document, which I will call the declaration page. It's got the legal descriptions and establishes some of the zoning conditions on it. This second sheet shows a 53-lot layout with a net density of about 4.5 units per acre. The layout included lots in the middle of the subdivision, which were quite a bit smaller than the perimeter lots, as around the perimeter we were trying to match up those lots with some of those adjacent R1 and A1, R1A and R1 zoning districts to the east and west. Design standards included in the ODP were setbacks generally 20 feet in the front, 15 to 20 feet on the rear, and 7.5 to 10 feet on the sides. This final sheet that I'm showing showed typical elevations for the development at that time. There were some architectural features which are included in it, including staggered front yard setbacks, structure elevations with at least 64% stone brick or so on, with wainscoting that wrap 4 feet on the side. There's restrictions as far as identical house models not being located adjacent to each other or across the street. So that's the zoning document that was approved, gosh, you know, quite a while ago, about 8 years ago. And now let's look at slides of the property. So this first slide is standing on 38th Avenue, looking north at the driveway into the property. You can see the house in the background. This is a view of the rear of the houses to the west. These are some of the homes located directly to the east. This is a close-up of the house. And this is at the very northeast portion of the property looking towards the detention pond location, which would be built if the development is approved. Here I'm looking north towards the greenbelt. And this is a view northwest. You can see, I believe that's Bass Lake over in this area right here, some of our gravel ponds. Now looking south back towards 38th Avenue. And this is the driveway leading out to 38th. And then this view is just looking at the public improvements located to the west. And these are the public improvements located to the east. And obviously, with the development of the property, they will have to tie in to those public improvements. So what we're looking at tonight is a 3-page document. It's got 3 sheets. Sheet 1, again, is the declaration sheet that contains the legal description, signature blocks for recording, and notes. There are notes related to several tracts which are created by the document. Let's see, tracts B through E are common elements in the subdivision, which includes landscaped areas and the detention pond that will be required to be maintained by the homeowners association. Tract A was created for the conveyance of 12 feet of right-of-way dedicated for 38th Avenue. So this second sheet shows the lot layout. The development access is 38th Avenue via a single roadway, which is located across from Tabor Court to the south. The internal circulation includes a looped road with 3 little kind of bump out cul-de-sacs extending from the west side, and all roads will be dedicated as public right-of-way. We're showing 53 lots, which vary in size from about 6,900 square feet on the interior of the site to just over 16,000 around the perimeter. And again, the larger lots are located around the outsides to more closely mirror those adjacent single-family subdivisions to the east and west. And this is consistent with what that ODP document showed and the intent of it. There is an existing 30-foot wide sanitary sewer easement that crosses the north portion that will have to be relocated into 39th Place, and this document allows for vacation and dedication of that new street alignment with the sanitary sewer. Let's see, the storm drainage has been designed to provide collection and conveyance of storm flows both off the site and on the site. Currently, there is a substantial amount of off-site storm drainage that crosses across the property and then dumps into Clear Creek, and as part of the development, the developer had to accommodate that historic flow. All of the site-generated drainage will be collected by inlets and conveyed to a detention pond at the very northeast corner of the property in this area right here. Let's see, from the pond, then the stormwater enters a manhole and a pipe board down about 60 feet and released into the Clear Creek Greenbelt open space. This is the third sheet of the plan set, and it is intended to represent the buildable lots based on the zoning parameters that were established as part of the ODP document, and also to provide, to serve as an addressing plan. A little bit about the street design. 38th Avenue, which runs along the south property line, is designated a minor arterial, and with the 12-foot dedication, will bring the street right-of-way to 82 feet in width. Improvements on 38th include vertical curb and gutter and XL decel lane on the north side with bike lanes and a 6-foot separated sidewalk, and they will tie into both of those subdivisions to the east and west. The entry into the subdivision will have 60 feet of right-of-way with a tree lawn and an entrance feature with separated sidewalks. Let's see what else. The streets in the interior of the subdivision are 50, let's see, I believe that's a mistake. I think it's 47 feet of right-of-way with mountable curb and a 4-foot sidewalk on one side and tree lawns. Once again, the HOA is going to be responsible for maintenance of some of those common elements. Those include certain buffer areas at 38th Avenue, the entrance median at the entrance to the subdivision at Tabor Court. Also, Track D, which is the detention pond in the northeast corner. There's also an emergency access down here from 38th Avenue. That's the secondary access required by the fire district, and that will be hard surfaced and gated and will have to be maintained by the homeowners association. Okay. We did go through our standard referral process with this, and all of the agencies can serve the property with improvements completed by the developer. Just a couple of notes. The sanitary, originally, the property was not located in a sanitary sewer district. They have petitioned to be included into Westridge, and that will require, improvements will require a sanitary sewer upgrade in 38th Avenue to accommodate the development, the cost of which is going to be shared by both the sanitation district and the developer, and we continue working towards the finalization of those documents. Let's see, Public Works has reviewed and approved a final drainage report. They've also reviewed traffic information and have concluded that traffic from the development can be supported based on the improvements that are going to be installed. And finally, I want to talk a little bit about the parkland dedication. Typically, when we receive a residential subdivision, the city reviews that application to determine what is necessary to accommodate the new residential population. Typically, the type of and the size of the land development that we see in the city is not sufficient to accommodate a public park. So most of the time we see it as a park fee in lieu of dedication. There's been a lot of discussion on this case, including at Planning Commission, about the appropriateness of having a trail that goes from this development down the slope into the green belt. And it doesn't make sense for a lot of reasons. Primarily, one of those is the situation with the Ute lady trusses orchid. Again, this is a rare orchid, federally threatened species that's been identified in this area since the early 80s. And we've had studies done in the past that have revealed several populations, both adjacent to the site and up and downstream. And as was appropriate in this situation, especially in lieu of the 60-foot slope, Parks and Recreation Commission recommended that fees in lieu of land dedication be collected. So just wanted to clarify where we were on that. This is a picture of the Ute ladies tresses orchid. Planning Commission did review this case at a public hearing on February 21st. They recommended approval with 6 conditions, which are included in the recommended motion in your council action form. There was an additional condition added pertaining to the use of parkland fees in the area. I'm going to go ahead and read that. This was the 7th condition, and it was due to lack of current access to green and park space in this area that park fees taken from the subdivision stay between the 38th Avenue corridor area between Kipling and Youngfield for the creation of new parks and or the upgrade of current parks and open space. Staff has chosen not to include that in staff's recommended motion. We believe that our Parks Department is capable of administering those funds correctly, and so we did not include that. Let's see. Staff has concluded that the application is consistent with the subdivision regulations, that it is consistent with the ODP plan that was approved in 2007. All agencies can serve the property with improvements at the developer's expense. Therefore, we have recommended approval with conditions. Those are the six conditions that are included in your packet. And I would be happy to answer any questions. I do have Tim Peranto at the staff table who can help with questions on drainage or public improvements.
Thank you.
Sure.
We'll move on to the applicant. Would you like to make a few comments? Applicant presentation. Please step forward and spell your last name for the record.
I'll get out of the way.
My name is Kent Carlson, C-A-R-L-S-O-N. Mayor and council, appreciate your time this evening, and actually in light of the pending weather that's coming and March Madness, I hope not to keep you any longer than you want to stay. You know, there has been very, very minor changes to this plan that's before you tonight, the plat from the ODP and the PRD. Really, the changes that were done were really for health and safety, mainly being street corners and accesses that were changed to make them better and safer and easier for traffic, and also really the secondary access for the fire lane. When the plan was originally done and brought before you, the fire chief at that time viewed the separated entrance, the median, as 2 entrances. They were wide enough that, you know, if there was one car broke down, they could get around. The new fire chief said he wanted a secondary access, and so that's why we accommodated that in the plan. That's why there's a secondary access on the 38th. Another reason why I've tried to keep it the same as much as possible is soon after becoming under contract with the Jenks, I went through the staff file online, almost all 900 pages of it, and realized that a lot of work had been done with the city, with the staff, with neighbors, to get to the PRD and the ODP, and I didn't want to recreate the will. And so I was trying to keep it specifically as close as possible. And so with that, I really have no more presentation. I think Meredith did a fine job. I think that's what you pay your staff for, is just to keep you educated. I'm here. We have Russ Burrows, who's with Carolyn Lang Manhard, who can answer questions, and also Ripper Reed, who's with Standard Pacific, who will be the home builder in the project.
Thank you.
With that, we're here to answer questions.
Thank you. So we'll move on to public comment. Please step forward if you'd like to say a few words at the podium, and please spell your last name for the record.
Good evening, Mayor Conselman. Steve Labriola, L-A-B-R-I-O-L-A, 119 20 West 38th Avenue. Guys, I've been going to these meetings for 5 years, okay? It's not even about the development now. I think the development's...
Mr. Labriola, could you address your comments to the council because they have to make the decision?
I think the development's a good development. We worked on it for 5 years. It's about the parks and the trail, guys. Man, public meetings, we're on TV. Where's Parks at tonight? We've been talking to planning for 5 years. Parks isn't here. I mean, guys, this is getting old. You show us a picture of a flower, it's endangered. Where's the paperwork showing that this endangered stuff is there? Guys, I mean, it's kind of an insult to injury. Everybody wants something in their neighborhood. The last board, 2 of the board members spent 20 minutes apiece talking about how nice it would be to have a trail to the river, to the open space. McLaughlin Estates has it. My family, my kids enjoy it. I just think, guys, we're not even talking about the development. Everybody just wants to get to the trail down there. I know it's on a cliff, the whole bit. The property's 1,500 foot wide. There can't be endangered flowers on every space there, okay? Everybody comes here. The last board, 2 of the board members talked about this for 20 minutes per person. The last 5 years of all these meetings, it's all about the trail down to the river. Okay, first of all, I'd like to see where this endangered flower is for 1,500 square feet of the property, okay? If we cannot do a trail there, if there's $1,000 collected per house, per lot for the parks, I think it should stay in the neighborhood. That was actually offensive. Everybody wants something in their neighborhood, and now it could just go wherever. Let's keep it in that general area for people to enjoy. Guys, I just wish there was something more we could do about this. And if we can't do something down below in a park, let's make a pocket park up above. 52 homes, families, seniors walking dogs. We got to walk down 38th to go in somebody else's neighborhood. I mean, and I don't want to make a hardship on the people. Let the owners of the property switch around the price to make a couple lots into parks here. It shouldn't be a hardship on them. I mean, this isn't much to ask in the whole big picture of everybody trying to be healthy and get exercise to have a little park or a way to get down to the green belt. Guys, I don't know what else to say, but to hear tonight that they don't even want it to be in between Kipling and Youngsfield, it could just go wherever, let it stay in the neighborhood. I'm greedy. My neighbors are too. Let it stay in our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. So this is public comment, so please step forward now if you have anything to comment on, because the next option will be council asking questions to staff, and then we'll close the public hearing. So does anybody else have any comments here from the public before we move on? Please step forward and spell your last name for the record. And please, do you swear to tell the truth in this matter?
Yes.
Thank you.
I would like to second Mr. Labriola's.
You give us your last name and spell.
I'm sorry. Last name is Miller, M-I-L-L-E-R. First name is Greg, 3780 Tabor Court, right across the street. And again, I was unable to attend the last meeting, but I've been here over the last few years as well, and I would like to second his comments. You know, a lot of this does come down to the trail, and I feel like the developer wants us to welcome them in to do this, but then, you know, put a big iron gate up around it, and we're not welcome in to their development. And that's just the feeling that I'm getting from this. And, you know, yeah, you can say it's too steep, but there's a path in the next development east that uses steps, and it works out just fine. It's fairly narrow path. If there's something endangered plants and whatever, those can be protected too. So unfortunately, I feel like those are just kind of being used as excuses and bargaining chips. But you know, we have small children as well. We'd like to walk around and see the new neighborhood once it's built. But it's not going to be very welcoming if it's just a big gate. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from the public before we move on? Okay, we'll move on to public or council questions and discussion. And I guess before we move on, Meredith, do you have that motion that the Planning Commission included if Mr. Stites or any other members of council would like to include it later? Yes. Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to council discussion and question. Ms. Davis?
So I just have a couple questions about the plans, and it might be just because I'm not an architect. It probably is because I'm not an architect. So one quick thing looking at the plans. So I know you said sidewalks, and is there sidewalks in the center section? It just looks, by the drawing, it looks narrower.
Well, what I think you're looking at is what was approved for the ODP. So is that the page you have?
Yeah, yeah.
And
like this one?
Yes. So that is the second page of the ODP document, which is the zoning document. And these street sections that they were showing were what we call atypical. So it was approved for the zoning that this was going to be the concept, but that when we get down to the final design, it can change a little bit. And we did recently adopt some new streetscape standards, and what is being proposed by the developer is consistent with that policy that we have in place now.
So would that be sidewalks on both sides of
Pardon
the
me?
street? Would that be sidewalks on both sides of the street?
Well, in this situation, we are having sidewalk on one side of the street.
So it is kind of, the picture does represent that
Yeah.
there's a sidewalk more on the outer side, not on the middle.
Correct. That's correct.
Okay. And then looking at the document on the west side, it looks like there's houses kind of backed up against each other, but when you look a little closer, it just looks like a couple of those have really long driveways. Is that the case, that you'd still access those lots from inside that unit, or would the access be on the adjacent street? Do you see that, where it's
so you're
like
talking
there's
about
some
this?
really, like there's like all these houses, like there's like 6 right next to each other.
Right.
And then like this one's got like a long driveway right there. So would all the access to all these lots be within this, this development, the 38th entry? None of the access would be from the outside street?
Right. Yeah, and actually, so again, this is part of the ODP document. The document we're talking about tonight, I mean, this was the zoning document, is if you go to the big plans, the second sheet of that shows the lot configurations, and yes, there are some unusual ones with the
longer driveways.
Yeah, with the longer driveways because of sort of those little cul-de-sac bulbs that come off there. But they all access from the interior of the site from the public street.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. And then one other quick question, and it was kind of regarding pocket park type of. I mean, you see that in a lot of developments, if it's Lowry or Denver and that type of thing. Was there discussions about, one little pocket park in this area? And
well, there's a lot of factors that go into a decision like that. One of those, of course, is maintenance and the cost of the city to maintain that kind of facility. I know we bantered about, even back in 2007, the issue of maybe having a trail or a pocket park, and we collectively, I believe, decided, and Joyce Manwaring is in the audience if you wanted to ask her, but we thought the best decision was to get the cash in lieu of.
Okay, and I'm glad you said that, because Parks is represented here tonight.
Yes.
So, thank you.
They are.
And Mr. Starker?
Excuse me for rattling my papers. Our plan tables are a little small. I was curious, just for my own interest. We're using a mountable curb instead of a vertical curb. Is that a typical city standard?
using a combination of mountable and vertical curbs in the interior of the site along 38th Avenue, and I believe in the median area, it's going to be vertical curb. Tim could maybe add some to that.
Yes, because of the not knowing where the driveways are going to be located, typically newer residential areas have mountable curbs so that that can accommodate those locations without having to remove and rebuild curb sections.
And that's pretty typical of our design standards?
For residential, yes, it is.
Any other questions or comments? Ms. J?
I'm assuming that the utilities will be buried within the subdivision, but not along 38th Avenue.
Actually, the developer is responsible for burying along 38th Avenue as well.
As well, wonderful. All right, and then regarding this, there's going to be a homeowners association?
Correct.
And that would take care of the maintenance of the trees?
Right. Well, there are certain common elements like the detention pond and some of the landscaping that goes into the entrance of the subdivision. There's also the emergency access that that will be commonly maintained. I believe individual property owners where they have a tree on their own tree and lawn in front of their house will be responsible for maintaining that.
Okay. So they would not be responsible for a pocket park if in lieu of cash we did that?
Well, I mean, we would have to totally review that policy and go back and rethink. Typically, that's not the standard. Typically, if a park, a dedicated park space is created, it becomes the city's responsibility to maintain.
Any more questions, Ms. J? I know. Mr. Reinhardt? No, she was letting me know that you wanted to answer questions.
I'm not sure why we are reviewing the homeowners association covenants. What's this businesses of ours and what's our concern in that?
Well, the concern for that is it's implicit in the drainage improvements that are going to be completed, that there are enough assurances that those will be maintained. The emergency access also is a private amenity for fire protection, and that as well is something that the homeowners will be responsible for maintaining. It's pretty typical that we look at residential covenants when we have this kind of development.
And just sort of on the practical matter, the bank, even if the developer were to be asked to build a staircase down the bank, the property line itself, where does it sit vis-a-vis the bank?
It is right, let me go to the aerial. Okay, so again, 38th Avenue, the property is outlined in blue, and you can see that the house is...
Please do not speak out of turn. Let the council ask questions to staff, please.
Okay. Where was I? Okay, so the blue line represents the property line, and it is right at the top of the bluff and starts to drop dramatically as soon as you go. See this line of trees? Those are all built on the bluff. There's about a 60-foot slope. If we were to do some sort of public access, we would have to follow federal law and have it meet ADA standards, which means it would switch back all the way down the slope with landings. It would be pretty impractical. In addition to that, the issue of the protected species complicates things as well.
And but again, the bank is not on the applicant's property, and
right.
And it would have to be ADA compliant.
It would have to be ADA
and it'd be through a sensitive habitat area.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Let me Any other questions from anybody else before I move back over to Ms. Davis? Mr. Stites?
Yeah, I just want to say that I've been on the back side of that property, and it is steep, very steep. And I think it would be it would be, I guess you could do it, but I think it'd be cost prohibitive to put any type of trailhead in or anything back there. And as far as a pocket park, you have Color Strand 2 blocks away. You got Louise Turner Park 3 or 4 blocks away. You have Discovery Park. So I think that the parks are pretty well covered out there. And I do think that our Parks and Rec Commission have studied this because we heard it here, I don't know, 3 years ago, whenever that was. And so they were all in tune with it about then. So, but I did want to say that I think, as far as that backside, it would be very cost prohibitive to build any type of trailhead back there.
Ms. Davis?
I just want one further clarification. So based off of the public comment, there was also something said that there is access to the Greenbelt from the adjacent development. So if I, wanted to take my kids and dog, and I could go to the adjacent development and get down into the Greenbelt in that way.
Yeah, that access is over in the subdivision to the east. It's a little bit different nowadays. That was platted in, I think, 1986. Does that sound right, Joyce? And they did a connection which does not come even close to meeting any sort of federal guidelines. And nowadays, we wouldn't allow that to be built just because public facilities are supposed to be ADA accessible.
Any questions or comments before I close the public hearing? And council, you'll need, Mr. Pond.
I just want to clarify that condition number 7 as read into the approval of the Planning Commission was brought back to park staff. Is that correct?
No, park staff, we informed them what the decision was, or the recommendation of the Planning Commission. Typically, when we collect funds like that, we don't attribute it to a specific development, just like we do with streets. So if council would like to include that condition, it's included both in the council action form under the Planning Commission action and in the minutes of Planning Commission.
No, I get that. I'm looking at it, but I'm just saying after the Planning Commission meeting, the conversation was brought back to Parks that that Planning Commission had added this.
Yes, administratively, we did not go back to the commission, but we discussed it at the staff level.
And that's where the recommendation is coming back from. Okay.
Mr. Dumont.
Along the outer, where there are going to be curbs.
Sure.
It looks like there's going to be tree lawn around there. I mean, that, although it's not a pocket park or a park feel, it does give more of a park feeling. We have it in my neighborhood. Some of the streets do, some of them don't. But what it gives is a good break when you're walking your dog. If there happens to be a place they need to take care of something, at least you're not right in your neighbor's yard. And it really does give a separated park kind of feel there, and that's why we have those in our standards now. That's about it. I mean, I feel like that because pocket parks aren't feasible in a lot of areas. The design standards that we have with the tree lawns and different curbing and different back and forth kind of curbing really kind of satisfies that feel and sometimes that need too.
Any other questions or comments before I close the public hearing? And then condition 7 would be the condition that the Planning Commission put on if anybody is interested in adding that as an amendment. So I'm going to close the public hearing and a motion's in order.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to approve resolution number 13, 2013, a resolution approving a 53-lot subdivision plat with the right-of-way dedications for property zone planned residential development located at 11885 West 38th Avenue for the following reasons. One, City Council has conducted a proper public hearing, meeting all public notice requirements as required by Section 26109 and 26407 of the Code of Laws. Two, the requested subdivision has been reviewed by the Planning Commission, which has forwarded its recommendations. Three, the subdivision plat has been found in compliance with Article IV of Chapter 26 of the Code of Laws with the following conditions. Property addresses be added to Sheet 3 of the plot document prior to recordation. Two, the HOA covenants be provided for staff review prior to plat recordation. Three, the developer continue working with Jefferson County Open Space and the city regarding protection of the Utes, ladies, tresses, orchid populations, and procurement of the temporary and permanent easements in the open space area. Four, prior to plat recordation, adequate assurance must be placed with Westridge Sanitation District on the ability to serve the property. Five, the property be assessed for fees in lieu of parkland dedication based on the appraised value of the land after land entitlements have been approved. Said fees to be paid prior to the recordation of the subdivision plat. And six, the developer into a city standard subdivision enter agreement with required security prior to recordation of the subdivision plat.
Second.
We have a motion for approval as stated in the packet with 6 conditions. It was seconded by Mr. Reinhardt. Do we have any other amendments? Seeing none, poll the council.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to flip the button. Please vote again. I cleared it, I didn't. Motion carries 8-0.
Thank you. That concludes item number 1, and item number 2 is going to be Council Bill number 05-2013. I'm going to open the public hearing. Councilmember Jay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council Bill number 05-2013, an ordinance approving the rezoning of property located at 6700 West 44th Avenue from restricted commercial RC to mixed use neighborhood MUN, case number WZ-13-01/Camaro Plus. At issue, the applicant is requesting approval of a zone change from restricted commercial RC to mixed use neighborhood MUN for property located at 6700 West 44th Avenue. The proposed rezoning area includes 2 parcels, total size of which is approximately 1.03 acres. Purpose of the zone change is to expand possible uses for the property. Specifically, the applicant is proposing to purchase the property and relocate his automotive restoration business to the east side of the existing building. A zone change is the first step in the process. If the zone change request is approved, the proposed use would require review of a conditional use permit. Other than improvements to landscaping and fencing, the applicant is not proposing any new development.
Thank you. Would the city clerk please assign an ordinance number?
This will be ordinance number 1536.
If you are here to speak on item number 2, please stand and raise your right hand. I'll swear you in, including the applicant and the staff. Do you swear to tell the truth in this matter? Thank you. Move on to staff presentation.
Thank you. Good evening. For the record, Lauren Michalak. I'm with the Wheat Ridge Community Development Department. I do want to enter into the public record the contents of the case file, the zoning ordinance, the comprehensive plan, and this digital presentation.
Thank you.
All appropriate notification and posting requirements have been met. So as Ms. J stated, this is a request for zone change at 6700 West 44th Avenue. I'll start with an aerial. North is to the top of the screen. The subject property is outlined in blue. It's on the south side of West 44th Avenue between Pierce and Otis Streets. The site does include 2 parcels. They were developed together in 1979, and the total size of the site is just over an acre at about 44,000 square feet. I have an excerpt from the zoning map. The property is zoned restricted commercial. That's indicated by that orange color. Along West 44th Avenue, most parcels are zoned and used commercially. In addition to the RC zone district, in the top right corner, you can see that pink color is Commercial 1. Some of the businesses along 44th include the nursery here to the northwest, a multi-tenant building right across the street. There's a converted home that's an office building and a bar. And on either side of the subject site, there's a self-serve car wash and a cigar shop. On the bottom half of the screen in that yellow-green color is a pretty well-established residential neighborhood. It's zoned residential 2 and includes mostly single and two-family homes. I do have a couple images. It's a large site, so this panoramic's a little bit distorted, but this is taken from 44th Avenue looking south. As I mentioned, the property was developed in the 70s. On the west side, the right side of your screen, the taller building is an office building. And on the east side, on the left-hand side, the lower building is more of a warehouse space. They are connected by an enclosed hallway. Both sides of the site have independent parking areas, and you can see this is a picture from last summer, so there is mature landscaping throughout the site. One more looking south, this is taken from Otis Street, looking on that east side of the property. The applicant is proposing to purchase the entire property and move his auto restoration business into this eastern warehouse side. It would provide about 9,000 square feet for indoor storage and work areas and a small retail component towards 44th. The background of this image on the left hand of the screen is also showing the proximity of a single family home to the south there. The applicant has proposed to clean up that shared property line, an improved fence, enhanced landscaping, but other than that, there's really no development proposed for the site. This slide is summarizing the permitted uses in the existing and proposed zone districts. The RC and MUN districts, as council knows, are pretty similar. They're both intended for neighborhood corridors with neighborhood-oriented commercial uses. One of the notable differences is in the treatment of auto-related businesses. So as I mentioned, the applicant's looking to move an auto restoration business, and under the existing RC zoning, any auto business is just simply not allowed. That includes service, sales, and sales of auto parts. In the MUN zone district, these types of businesses are classified a little bit differently, so they are permitted on a limited basis. Sales, auto sales and auto service are conditional uses as long as there's no outdoor storage or display. And then sale of vehicle parts is just classified as general retail, so that would be permitted. So in this case, the applicant's restoration business, though it's not your traditional auto body shop, it would be considered a conditional use. So briefly, looking at the comprehensive plan, staff does feel that the proposed zoning is consistent with the goals of Envision Wheat Ridge. West 44th Avenue in the top image is shown as a neighborhood commercial corridor that's designated by that light pink dotted line. And more specifically, the intersection at 44th and Pierce is designated as a neighborhood commercial center. And so these really mean that the area is seen as a commercial cluster that should have a mix of uses and should promote opportunities for small businesses. Staff feels that the mixed-use neighborhood zoning would promote those goals. And in addition, the comp plan really states that where we have these transitional areas, we want to protect established residential neighborhoods. And as council is aware, the mixed-use zone districts includes for new development those built-in design standards that require enhanced landscaping and setbacks and step backs when adjacent to low-density neighborhoods. So ultimately, staff and Planning Commission are recommending approval of the rezoning. We find that the zone change would not adversely affect public health, safety, or welfare. As I mentioned, it is supported by the comprehensive plan and is an appropriate zone district in areas adjacent to commercial and residential uses. That concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions. The applicant is in the audience.
Thank you. We'll move on to the applicant. Would you like to make any statements? And please spell your last name for the record if you, and your address, please.
First name is Steve, last name Pelletier, P-E-L-L-E-T-I-E-R. One thing that was brought up during the March 7th meeting with the Planning Commission was the current condition of the building and the parking lot and so forth. I just want to state that Part of the conditional use permit is they've asked me to clean some stuff up, tear down the lean-to, put up a proper fence, and clean up the trees. And I just wanted to let City Council know that even though that conditional use permit won't be required for me to do that for 30 to 60 days, we're scheduled to close on the 10th. I have a tree service coming in at 2 o'clock on the 10th. The dumpster's going to land on the 11th. So with zoning approval, if it should go through tonight, the property will be cleaned up well before the conditional use permit is asking me to do it. And so I just wanted to thank you for your time and look forward to moving my business to Wheat Ridge. You guys have been very, very helpful compared to the other cities I've had to work with on just smaller changes. So thank you.
Thank you.
And did anybody have any questions? Or
We'll come back around. Thank you, Steve. We'll move on to public comment. Do we have anybody from the public who'd like to speak? Mr. Art. Please spell your last name for the record.
Thank you, Steve Art, A-R-T, Economic Development Manager. I just want to talk about the process that we went through to get this this project before you today. It has been a reason that we are open for business and that U.S. City Council has made Wheat Ridge the place, the destination for business to come. When we first heard about this business that was an auto repair place come to the site, it brought up red flags. We as staff did make, Steve, you don't know, we made clandestine visits to your shop there, and we saw what a quality business is. And then working with the mayor's office and members of the city council, I want to just commend staff for the ability to get this process done in an expedited time frame so that we could get this business open as soon as possible, start bringing new revenues into the city of Wheat Ridge. It has just been a fantastic process. We anticipate the SUP will go through smoothly. As Mr. Peltier said, he is bringing on dumpsters to the site. We actually did a site walkthrough with the building division as well as the fire department, looked at every area of that business there. It seemed that the business should be relatively easy to get open, not many site improvements there. I just want to commend you as the city council and all the staff for getting this business open as soon as possible. And hopefully tonight you will confirm that with an 8-0 vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll move on to council questions or discussion. Do we have any? Ms. J?
I'd like to ask Mr. Pelletier a question. Thank you, Mr.
Yes.
Pelletier. You seem to be wanting to do this and do it correctly, which is great. In reading our job is to look at this as a zoning thing and what's allowable and what isn't. And of course, the notation being that it's under conditional use for your specific business, that you're not allowed outside car storage, be stores or, full cars or parts. Are you comfortable with that? Is that going to be?
Completely. Right now I operate in roughly 4,200 square feet of space, and it's adequate for my business and the current growth where I want to be at. I don't anticipate or want to get much larger. I'm very, very comfortable with where we're at. I do have an 1.5 acre piece of I-1 zone property in Arvada. That is where I keep any what you would consider outside storage, and was planning on developing that property, but just was not financially doable in the city of Arvada, and that's why I chose to look at other avenues, which is why I ended up in Wheat Ridge. So essentially I can use that property there for any outdoor storage. The rest of my business would remain inside the 9,300 square foot building that is to the east side of this property. So essentially I can double the size of my storage area inside, so I won't need any outside storage at all. As I understand, no outside storage when we were sitting with the city planning department. When I shut down my doors at 5 or 6 o'clock at night, there's not to be anything outside unless it's a fairly new car such as my own that has current plates and is all together in one color and looks like any other car that would be parked in a regular parking lot of any place else. But any type of a car that we have to maybe roll outside during the day to look at in the sign light or something that might be missing a fender, all that stuff would have to be moved back in by closing hours at the end of the day, and none of that's to be outside, is how I understood the storage situation for this lot.
What if you have an automobile that you have worked on, that you've maybe bought parts and created a car? If I understand the documentation correctly, you're not even able to sell that, putting a sign out for sale that this car is for sale?
That's a great question. Most of our cars sell in the range of, I say most, I sell probably 1 to 2 cars a year, if that. I'm not a wholesale dealer type cars place. We typically will build one car for the shop for ourselves, more for exposure, and then we take it to the auction. If any of you have seen the Barrett-Jackson auction on TV, that's where we sell that car, and the money that's required to build those cars and buy those cars is typically not going to be sold out, putting a car out on the street with a for sale sign. A $100,000 car, a guy's not going to drive it and go, okay, let me test drive it and buy it. It requires that auction environment. So the last cars, the last 3 that we've sold in the last 5 years, have all gone to a public auction, and they require going out of state and so forth like that. So that's where it's kind of a niche business. Some of the cars we have in there are $500,000, and they can't, you know, one of the city planners asked me, can you leave it outside? I said, I can't even afford to leave that car outside for 10 minutes. If somebody would hop in and drive it away, it's irreplaceable. So, you know, once I shut the doors down, you would never really know I'm even there except for a sign on the door, and that's about it. It's not a traditional automotive type related business.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Starker?
I had a question for Lauren.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you. I wanted to confirm that the parcel here is just one zone lot.
It is 2 parcels, actually a lot from 2 separate adjacent subdivisions. It's the same zoning. We'll be rezoning both parcels. If in the future the lot was ever redeveloped, they'd be consolidated. So it was
We're
one single.
not consolidating that now.
No, we don't require any sort of plating action unless there's a change to the footprints of the buildings beyond a certain extent.
So a change of use doesn't drive that?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Davis?
Lauren, I have another question for you, and I think this is more for clarification to the folks in TV land, because I've had some discussions with folks that live in the neighborhood, and their concern is, and you might have heard this in some of the public meetings and that type of thing, but the concern is traffic.
Right.
And what I tried to articulate, and probably not as well as you could articulate, is that it's already zoned commercial. So we're not taking a residential area and changing it to commercial, but we're changing it kind of a commercial area to mixed use development. And I think that's, you know, if you could kind of help clarify, help ease the understanding that what's currently zoned there could potentially pull traffic through the neighborhood, near the neighborhood. I mean, the good news is it sounds as if there's not going to be a huge retail business and huge traffic, but the way that that's zoned, people could come in there and have a higher traffic business today.
Yeah, one of the challenges with this request is that the current and proposed zonings are so similar that distinguishing those differences has been really difficult. There's a driveway access on 44th Avenue right now. It's hard to see maybe, but it serves the subject property. That driveway access will remain open. 44th Avenue is a minor arterial, and it's accommodating the traffic that's existing for commercial businesses now and will continue, we suspect, to accommodate that. Like you said, there could be a higher intensity use under the existing zoning without going through a public hearing. So we don't anticipate any change on Otis or Pierce through that on Otis through that neighborhood.
And the current zoning would have created that same,
correct,
like you were just saying.
Yeah.
I just want to reiterate, because I know that's, and you've probably heard it too, that's creating a lot of angst.
Right.
And when you try and, you know, explain it, I don't know that I did it as well.
Yep. Yeah, we could have somebody walk in with a business license application and have a more intense permitted business come in. So it's difficult to articulate that that's not a huge change with this new zoning.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Stites?
Just an observation. One, you're taking a building that has sat vacant for several months now, so we won't have that problem anymore. You're going to clean up that corner. I think it will not impact the neighborhood at all. I think it's going to be an asset. And I just would like to say, if this thing passes, we'd like to welcome you to Wheat Ridge.
Mr. Pond? I'd like to thank staff, too, for their work on this, to run it through the normal process, but they expedited it based on some requests for timing because of the applicant. It was a good process, and I agree with Mr. Stites. What's nice about this is that this is going to fill a need in Central Jeffco that we don't have right now. I restore and work on cars, and a lot of the businesses that restored classic cars have gone south and north, and so it's going to be great to have this type of business in the central part of Jeffco working on classic cars. You know, it's not a chop shop or a everyday automotive repair, but it's working on some very high-priced, nice collector cars that'll be in Central Jeffco, close to Wheat Ridge collector car guys, so, and gals. Any other questions or comments before I close the public hearing? Close the public hearing, a motion's in order.
Thank you. I move to approve Council Bill number 05-2013, an ordinance approving the rezoning of property located at 6700 West 44th Avenue from restricted commercial RC to mixed-use neighborhood MUN on second reading, and that it take effect 15 days after final publication for the following reasons. City Council has conducted a proper public hearing meeting, all public notice requirements as required by Section 26-109 of the Code of Laws. The requested zoning has been reviewed by the Planning Commission, which has forwarded its recommendation. The requested zoning has been found to comply with the criteria for review in Section 26-11-12-112E of the Code of Laws.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion to approve, seconded by Ms. Davis for item number 2. Please poll the council.
Motion carries 8-0.
Well, congratulations and welcome to Wheat Ridge. Give Arvada a call tomorrow. So item 3 is Council Bill number 07-2013. I'm going to open the public hearing. Mr. Stites.
Yes, I'd like to introduce Council Bill number 07-2013, an ordinance extending a temporary moratorium on the submission, acceptance, processing, and approval of applications for a permit or license for any marijuana establishment or marijuana club. Following the passage of Amendment 64 on November 6, 2012, the Council has not yet established guidelines for marijuana clubs and marijuana establishments. The ordinance extends a moratorium originally imposed by Ordinance 1533 on March 11 on the submission, acceptance, processing, and approval of all applications for city permits and licenses concerning the operation of marijuana establishments or marijuana clubs. The ordinance will provide the city staff with the time necessary to allow city to develop appropriate policies.
Would the city clerk please assign an ordinance number?
This is going to be ordinance number 1537.
Do we have any staff presentation beyond the executive summary, Mr. Dahl?
Very, very brief. I think the summary covers it pretty well, and I've addressed this to the council in study session as well. This moratorium will go to November 1. That should give us time to see what the legislature does, and they're now, I think, starting to take up that issue legislatively. I did mention to council at study session, want to make it a part of the public record that this ordinance does not affect medical marijuana establishments, and that's now expressed in the ordinance in section 6, I think. Yes, 6. So I think that will give us enough time to first figure out what the state's going to do around both retail marijuana and marijuana clubs, the free kind of just public gatherings, and also be able then after that time to react and craft the regulations that are appropriate for the city. And I urge you to approve it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to public comment. Mr. Schultz, did you have anything to say tonight about marijuana? Okay. Thank you. Move on to council discussion. Any discussion on from council? I'm going to close the public hearing and a motion's in order.
I move to approve Council Bill number 07-2013, an ordinance extending a temporary moratorium on the submission, acceptance, processing, and approval of any application for a city permit or license to operate a marijuana establishment or marijuana club on second reading, and that it take effect 15 days after final publication.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion to approve item number 3, was seconded by Mr. Pond. Please poll the council.
Motion carries 8-0. You're
Thank
on
you.
a roll.
The next item on the agenda is decisions, resolutions, and motions. Item 4, Councilmember Pond.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion to ratify the District 3 mayoral appointment to Renewal Wheat Ridge, term to expire November 30, 2014. The members of Renewal Wheat Ridge are appointed by the mayor and ratified by City Council. There is currently one opening in District 3 as Tom Radigan resigned effective March 8, 2013. 3 applications were received, and Mayor DiTullio reviewed and interviewed the applicants.
Thank you. We had 3 applications on file. We had a late application from previously from Rick Adams. I called Mr. Adams, and he was no longer interested in serving due to time commitments. I also talked to Mr. Rogers, and he was interested in serving, on Renewal Wheat Ridge or any other board and commission. He has some great experience and background, and he also is a member of the Planning Commission for Jefferson County. I also talked to Loretta DiTiro, and she has some great experience and background also, especially negotiating and the housing market. So at this time, we have 3 great applicants. Like I said, 2 of them will maybe consider for some other boards and commissions based on my discussions with Mr. Pond and Mr. Stites. But this time, I'd like to recommend Loretta DiTiro.
Motion in order?
A motion's in order.
I move to ratify the District 3 mayoral appointment of Loretta DiTuro to the Renewal Wheat Ridge, term to expire November 30th, 2014.
Second.
We have a motion for Loretta DiTiro, was seconded by Mr. Stites. Discussion? Please poll the council.
Motion carries 8-0.
Thank you. Move on to, that concludes our agenda for this evening. We move on to City Manager's Matters.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few announcements I'd like to present to the public. City will be hosting a e-waste recycling event for our citizens. It will be held on Saturday, April 27th at Anderson Park from 9 a.m. to p.m. or 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Residents can bring in their unwanted electronics and pay a small fee. And so we hope everybody utilizes that, takes advantage of that. Also, we have a Wheat Ridge Business Brother redevelopment that's going to be sponsoring a paint-a-thon for our local seniors. They'll be painting up to 100 seniors' homes for free of charge. To qualify, the residents must be 60 years of age or older, own or occupy their home, plan to live in it at least 1 more year, and be limited beyond a limited income. They can apply at Brothers Redevelopment website, which is www.brothersredevelopment.org. And you can also check the city's website for more information on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Goff, at the JEC breakfast, Rocky Mountain Bottling had asked about recycling, having some bins out for glass. Did you have any locations in mind, or have you talked to them?
We're working on it, yes.
Okay, thank you. City Attorney's Matters?
Nothing beyond the executive session, nothing tonight.
Okay. City Clerk's Matters?
I don't have anything tonight. Drive safely tomorrow.
Thank you. Mr. Reinhardt? Ms. J? Ms. Langworthy?
Just quickly, the Live Local event is taking place this Thursday at 5:30 p.m. to I think 7 at Large Marge over there on Kipling, just kitty corner from the rec center. So she has some deals going on. Come and visit one of our local restaurants.
Well, thank you. Mr. Stites?
Oh, yeah. There's a new business that has opened up on 29th and Depew. I think it's called the People's Market. You might want to go down there and check that out. I think they started Friday, be open. It would be a great time to relocate either your home or business to Wheat Ridge. If you need any help, see one of us or staff. They'd be happy to show you how things work. Positive thing could start tomorrow with a lot of the snow that's coming that they say, so make sure that you do your walks and your neighbors, try to help them. And as always, please try to find it and buy it in Wheat Ridge. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Starker?
I'm going to hope that Mr. Stites didn't steal my thunder, but I'm going to go ahead and again welcome People's Market at 29th and Depew. Miss Brooke White opened her store last Friday. Great foodstuffs there, fresh bread, and other good things to eat. So I hope everyone will take the opportunity to welcome her to the neighborhood, and I wish her a lot of good luck. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Davis?
Just something quick, because I've gotten a couple emails, and it was April Fool's as far as the sign that's on 38th, and so I just want people to say that because I've got emails, and they'll know what sign I'm talking about, and that's all.
But that sign was spelled W-A-L-L.
Yes, it was spelled wrong, but I didn't notice the spelling, but I noticed the sign.
Mr. Pond?
Thank you. Just a couple of things. I didn't say this earlier, and I should have, but I'll take my time right now to just thank Steve Lariola and Greg Miller from District 3 coming down and participating in our public the public comment period for the first item on our agenda tonight. I'm certainly excited about the upcoming development, and I know that it may not have gone exactly the way they wanted to, but I certainly appreciate them coming down. That said, I wanted to also call attention, obviously, to the hard work that the Park and Rec Commission as well as the Planning Commission did on that. And just, a hope that the park staff will consider the Planning Commission's recommendation to keep some of those funds in District 3 along 38th Avenue.
Mr. DeMott?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Mr. Schultz, did you have anything as our treasurer? So we need to make a motion for the executive session. Does someone have that motion?
I do. I move to go into executive session for a conference with the city attorney under Charter Section 5.7B1 and Section 24.6.402.4B CRS, specifically for legal advice concerning the city's rights under its gas and electric franchise. I further move to adjourn the council meeting at the conclusion of the executive session.
We can just stay here. Oh, is there a second? Mr. Reinhardt, please poll the council.
Motion carries 8-0.
Thank you.
Take 5 minutes to.
Let's take a 5-minute break. We'll come back in.
Back here, yeah.
I don't even